is my dear friend, Miss Syvoskia. And Syvoskia and I have been friends for, I think I've lost count. It's been a while, been a couple of years.
Been over 12 years.
12 years. Wow. I'm still even trying to remember where we first met, but probably through Sherry, I guess.
Yes.
Through the chamber. We were both at different chambers working for a little while. She was working there and I was helping on a committee. And we were doing a project together and became fast and furious friends and have stayed friends for quite some time. So welcome, Miss Syvoskia.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So I wanted to do something really special this week for my friends who are authors. And so this week is Authors Week, and I've got 6 really dynamic, they actually all happen to be females this week, who have authored a book, or one who is in the process of finishing her book. But I just wanted to honor them and celebrate them and introduce them, each of them, to you guys, so that you could learn about them, hear their heart, and have some inspiration from them. So this is Syvoskia. This is the book that she wrote, and it's been a decade now. Is that right?
10 years.
10 years. My goodness, I can't even believe that. I still remember when you broke it out of the box. That 10 years ago. So you were sharing with me before we went live that you were kind of thumbing through your book last night.
Oh gosh, I was. And I began to thumb through the book and I thought, who is this lady? She's been through a whole lot. And I thought, I feel sorry for her. And I said, but that's me. Oh, look how far I've come. Yeah. What a true transformation that has happened in my life. When I went back to look, I call it the little girl that was within me, that was pouring out her life and teaching. Awesome. It just gave me a beautiful reflection.
Oh, that's so
sweet. the beauty for your ashes. As the word tells us, we get beauty for our ashes. And then I see the beauty for the ashes. And it just made me, how about fall in love with myself all over again?
Oh, that's so beautiful. So what led you, so 4 or 5 questions that we're going to just kind of talk about today. And so that's a great segue into the very first question, which, what in the world caused you to want to write a book over a decade ago? And I don't even know when you actually started writing it versus when it got published.
Yeah. It got published in 2009. This book was really started being I had been licensed as a minister, and many women had begun to approach me, and they were dealing with their purpose, their callings, their spiritual gifts, where they feel they needed to be placed in the church. And a lot of that derived from me serving as superintendent of Sunday school. And so I embraced and engaged with women and men, of course, on multiple levels, and getting them their spiritual training. And so the dialogue began on, well, how did you get to where you are today? And I thought, well, that's a good question. And I said, well, we all have a purpose that we are supposed to complete. And so as the many women began to share with me their stories, their trials, I thought, you know what, maybe I should just write a book, share my autobiography, and teach on every principle that I have learned to become the woman that God called me to be. And so that is when I realized that because we have purpose, this purpose that he gives us and brings us through, we're not to keep that purpose to ourselves, but we are to share that, encourage one another, right? And to help someone else grow.
Absolutely. And you even grew yourself through that process.
Yes. Yeah. It was one of the things about uh, just in discovering my purpose as I wrote this book, one of the things I learned was I had to go back into my childhood. So in many ways, it became therapy for me. So a lot of times writings can become therapy. And so in discovering my purpose, it was therapeutic that I and remembering some times with my grandmother sitting all of her grandchildren in a circle. She wasn't cliche, considered a licensed preacher at that time because women were not recognized. Fast forward, we are today.
Right.
But she would often teach us, and she would put the fear in us. Get right. And so those principles, spiritual principles to live by and be guided by, was a very part of my DNA. And so I had to go back as a little girl to really re-experience the pain of my past, to bring this purpose through. I had to experience those painful experiences and things that were buried inside of me that I didn't realize I had suppressed and buried inside of me. But to truly make this a true, authentic book so that whoever read it would not just be getting educated, but it would be so therapeutic that I would connect with women and then it would bring healing to their situation to know that they are not alone and simply what I went through would be an advocate for them.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And I think a lot of times the way that God allows us to
Mhm.
encourage and support others is through our own journey or pain or tragedy. One
Yes.
of my mentors often says, out of pain comes our purpose. And
Yeah.
so many times, God uses, if
Mm-hmm.
we'll allow Him, that journey to
Mm-hmm.
encourage others.
Yeah, that's real.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Very
journey
cool.
and
So my second question then is, um, how has being an author impacted you in your life? So it sounds like it was part of a platform that allowed
Mhm.
you to do further teaching. And I remember back when it was published, you were using that as part of your women's ministry
Yes,
platform.
yes, I was able to have this book used as a tool for Bible studies for women, but also with no disclaimer, other people could use it as well. They were invited. I do remember in the early, I was teaching a workshop going through the book and sharing some things with those who wanted to share it with other women's ministry. So it became a platform for reaching other women. This book even reached women all the way to Africa because part of my journey in this book talks about me leading a mission trip to Africa. So this book went nationwide, all over the world, impacting a platform even international.
Yeah.
Um,
Was it
awesome.
was it translated into Swahili, or were the interpreters just translating it on the fly?
The interpreters at that time, yes, the interpreters did the translation for the women.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that's what I was thinking that had
Yeah,
happened.
yeah.
So, who is this for mostly?
So mostly, obviously, you have the name of the book. Of course, it's in you. 12 Power Principles for Becoming the Woman God Called You to Be. So it's obviously directed at women.
Mhm.
Uh, I say teen girls as well because I'm sharing my teenage history. And so I start from the age of 5, right? So there's something in there for every child, teenager, young adult woman at any age. It could be anywhere from a professional to a teacher to a clergy. Really, any woman, any child or teenager, and I say teenage, I say 13 and up, that is really trying to explore and discover their identity, purpose, principles that they can live by that are really going to give them an opportunity for personal development and spiritual growth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been a long time
Yeah.
since I read the book. I should have gone back through and flipped through it myself, but I remember one of the things is, and you even talk about it on the back of the book, defeat opposition in spiritual warfare. And I think we sometimes forget that the battle that we are fighting is not here on earth, but it's a spiritual battle, whether that spiritual battle is over us or those in our lives. And
Exactly.
it's huge in order to be able to do that and to even sometimes sit back and let God fight the battle, which I know sometimes I'm guilty of not doing. I think I got to do it all myself. I got to be that strong person. I got to do it. But it's not that way at all.
Sure. I'm grabbing my book as we speak. Is that okay? I'm going to get it off the counter.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I do remember one of the things that I liked about it. It was a very hands-on book. So at the end of each chapter, there were some, reminders of what that chapter was about, and there was some reflection. So asking yourself, and so you were helping the reader go through their own journey, which is, I like those kind of books because it helps me take this and put feet to it, so to speak.
Yes.
Instead of just a nice book to read. Yeah, it has that.
Those PowerPoints, members, so had applications, things for the women to reflect on after they read each principle.
Right.
And then really agreeing with them with the prayer. Not realizing one of these principles may not touch you as you read it, but sometime during your lifetime, I guarantee you one of these principles will touch your life. Absolutely. Yeah.
And everybody's at a different stage in their journey. And so what God is working with me on may be completely different today than where I am a year from now, or 2 years from now, or 10 years from now.
Absolutely.
I'm curious if you go back through and look at the points, the principles in here, is there, you don't have to disclose what it is, but is there something that, God's even continuing to use your own book in your life where you are today? Because you've had a few life changes since you wrote that book.
Oh, yes. This could be part 2. Part 2 to this book. It's in you next level. How about that?
That's right.
There's been oftentimes needs that I will pull this book. I use the principle as confidence. Sometimes if I have those low days and, we go through it, I'm like, let me go back and read and see what I told myself. And I'll pick up confidence, and I'll start reading it and I'll get inspired and I'll get fired up all over again, And so I think in all the principles that we share, these are daily principles that we live by. I mean, prayer is a principle, Our prayer life grows from one level to the next. And now during this time, it was more of a basic level of where I was on prayer, but certainly that level of prayer have grown, but the foundation of the prayer is essential because sometimes we get away from those spiritual principles. and we have to get back to the place where. So I think it's essential. So yes, it helped me very much. So
Yeah.
it's 10 years ago, but the principles are relevant because only thing is happening is that you're evolving, you're growing, but those principles still apply.
Yep. Truth is still truth. It's just
Yes.
our growth that is able, even I think about that when I read scripture, and I think, how could I have read this particular verse or this particular passage as many times as I've read it, and this word speaks to me today? And so it's all about our journey. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. I know you're right. I mean, you mentioned the opposition and the spiritual warfare. Oh wow, it's been on multiple levels. But here's the truth of that. When I wrote about spiritual warfare, that's when God was teaching me how to fight in the spirit. Because we know, in the word of God in Ephesians, it says we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but of principalities in high places, right? I'm praising that. So, because I was learning to fight, not knowing I was going to be fighting spiritual warfare as I began to grow even more closer. Yeah.
He was preparing you for what was ahead.
Exactly. So this is a good foundational book, but also for those who never got the foundation. So it's not necessarily your age in development, in personal development, right? And so it applies. It's relevant.
Yeah, absolutely. And the last question is, let's see here. If you were speaking to someone who said, hey, Syvoskia, I think I might want to write a book one day, or I think I might have one in me, not sure. So what advice would you give that person?
Okay, so I would tell them to get a journal, right? Which is really good anyway. And just begin to journal your thoughts, your passions. Is this something good that you're good at that you want to say? You're good at cooking. You want to share recipes, right? Start writing the recipes. You might have a recipe cookbook, but certainly just start pouring out those thoughts and ideas. Don't worry about editing. Don't be a perfectionist. Just let the words flow. And then, meditate on, getting your own way of meditation and meditate about this vision or this idea that you have to be an author. Now, this is just me. Nobody said that. Me said that. I think we all have a book in us, whether it's a book of business, teaching someone on starting a business, teaching a trade. I just think that we all have a book where we can teach someone. And then after you've started that, I think you want to make sure that you connect with resources that are available for authors. Get you a good editor, right? Do your research. Because, there's many things to consider in becoming an author. You can be a self-publisher, which is way so much more expensive, and which is what I did. And so, and I don't know, you might be that Pulitzer Prize award-winning $1 million book, who knows? But, start with the basics, but just know that if you start with journaling and you meditate and seek out the right resources, you'll be on the right track. If I can be of assistance, I would love to help you.
Sounds great. And if anybody is looking to investigate their own power principles, here's the book again. Gotta get the light out of it. And is it on Amazon?
It is. It is on all those sites: Amazon, Barnes and Noble, all of them.
Okay.
Yes. I can get it on.
I'll put the name of the title in a link underneath.
Okay.
So if anybody's interested in getting it, then they can. Any closing thoughts, Ms. Syvoskia?
They could do facebook.com/Syvoskia. Yeah.
All right, there you have it.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time and your insights. And I'm so
Yes.
excited that I didn't even realize it was going to be your 10-year anniversary. So that was just a
It
bonus
is.
for our,
It's
for our
10 years.
interview.
That's a 10-year bonus, says, and I'm going to have to remember that. All right. Thank you so much, Denise.
All right, you have a good one. Thanks, everybody.